tell us how the concept of public service broadcasting came to be?
It came about quite slowly, really. But if there was a single spark, it was probably listening to a Radio 4 program in it must have been 2008. It was an archive hour, and it was presented by Tom Robinson, and it just mentioned the release of some BFI footage onto the internet. So I just kind of went online, had a rummage around, and I'd used samples from other films before to sort of make songs just for my own amusement. So I kind of intended to do the same with these. I just thought it might be a nice sort of source, nice new source. And I made one song and quite liked it. Thought it came together quite well, and played it to a few friends, and they really liked it as well, which is very rare. So I kind of carried on making more, really, and then it just struck me it'd be a good idea to do an album where every song was basically a different public information film.
In terms of the old footage and the research conducted, do you guys have to trawl through a lot of old footage to actually make the distinct fusion come together?
Yeah, I do seem to be quite lucky. I haven't had to wade through sort of hours and hours of useless stuff. I mean, you know reasonably quickly when you start watching something if there's going to be something good in there. Just the quality of the voice and the narration, or if there's too much music all over it, then you can kind of kiss it goodbye because it's just not going to be possible to isolate the speech. But a fair amount of time, I tend to do a kind of bit of research online and search through the sort of the BFI sort of archives, or just generally, find old archive stuff that I'm interested in, and then take it from there, really. See what's available and if we can get the rights to it, and start writing music around it.
You guys made the transition from EP to album. Was it challenging for you, knowing that you were going to get more exposure with a full-length album?
I think the real challenge was the EP was so well defined. It had a distinct narrative thread running through, and it was designed, it was written with that in mind. It was supposed to be using the films of World War II propaganda to sort of tell the story moving through World War II, and that did give us a kind of a strong narrative around which to hook all the music, which I think really did affect the way that people saw it. Obviously, with the album, it's a bit more sort of scattershot in terms of the subjects we cover.
And when you take the stage, you do so with props and you offer a stunning visual experience to the audience. How imperative is this for you, your live shows, that you reflect yourself as a band in this manner?
I think we've done shows without it. We've done shows with a sort of a less highlighted visual element. I do think it does add something, though. I think the music stands up on its own. I think if we did do a gig without any kind of visuals at all, I still think it would be quite fun. I think the difference would be the sort of the character and the feel of it would be slightly affected. But I think for the size of band we are and the size of venues that we're doing, I think we are doing something pretty ambitious at the moment, and looking forward to sort of the autumn and maybe sort of getting out on the road again, and this tour's done quite well, so maybe moving up a slight step in terms of the size of venues again, thinking about how we can make it sort of bigger and better, really, and keep the character and the spirit behind it, but also make it good fun to go and watch.
You mentioned being on the road, exposure at festivals. Do you think festivals are a chance for you guys to just to announce yourself to perhaps guys that just flock into the actual stage, because a lot of bands get discovered at festivals? Would that be a chance?
I think that's. I mean, I've discovered a whole load myself that way. You're just kind of ambling around during the afternoon, and you sort of hear a sound coming out of a tent, and you just kind of stumble in, and have a look, and you can see some really great things that way. So I'm hoping. I mean, since I first started this, I have always thought it would be a good thing at festivals. I think it's got a kind of eccentricity to it and a good-humoured nature to it, and a kind of upbeat and positive attitude to it that I think means it will go down well.
Your album, it's a great album. There's nothing like it. It's so distinct and unique. Inform, educate, entertain. The start of this album is very fast-paced. Was there a reason you went for the fast-paced?
Yeah, well, I think when you're a new band to most people who are buying the album, a lot of people will make the graduation from the war room and they'll buy the album as well, so we'll have a bit more leeway with them. But when you're a new band, I don't think you can really get away with a couple of slow songs at the start. You want to hook people in, and generally speaking, people do prefer faster songs. They're more exciting. They're more likely to get the blood pumping, as it were. And we're not really the kind of ballady type of band yet. I think there's room to go into that, but at the moment, I mean, the start of the album, it was supposed to be quite sort of hard-hitting, really, yeah, come out of the blocks racing, and then once you've kind of hopefully swayed a few people over to your side, you do have a bit more room to manoeuvre, and you can kind of end on a what sounds like a downbeat note.
The inclusion of the banjo on songs like Theme from PSB and ROYGBIV, was this to add a more jovial feel?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of the banjo for ages. I just love hearing it. I think it kind of puts a smile on people's faces, and certainly for I call it Roygibiv, but everyone pronounces it differently, so there's no right version. Yeah, for that, I mean, what I was trying to do there was trying to make a song that sounded colourful as well as being about a colourful subject matter. So it was all very sort of bright instruments and a wide sort of palette of sound almost. Lots of percussion in there to kind of give a sense of energy and vibrancy, and the banjo is just a great instrument. It's very percussive as well. It's kind of as much a percussive instrument as it is a melodic one, and I think it really, you know, it has a definite mood to it on that song, and it definitely kind of makes it more of a summery song than some of our other ones.
And speaking of subject matter, was there a particular message you were hoping to convey with the inclusion of subject matter, including male, colours, fashion?
It's a tough one. I'd say they all kind of come out of musical ideas first, really. I thought, I was just sitting in the van one day and I just thought, for the fashion song, I thought it'd be quite amusing, really. It would amuse me anyway to do a kind of tongue-in-cheek sort of kitsch fashion throwback, and do that from the point of view of a sort of 80s, very 80s sounding sort of sound set. Kind of like, you know, the Pet Shop Boys clothes show music. I thought it'd be kind of a nice way to send that up and also send up the fashions of the past, and in a way, in doing that, obviously send up fashion full stop. I'm not sure there's anything particularly educational in that one, I have to say, but I mean, Night Mail as well. Night Mail just came about because I had the idea for that sort of drum beat, kind of loping drum beat, but quite sort of, you know, it keeps going. It sounds like it's going to fall over, but it keeps going, it keeps going. And you know, it sounded a bit like a train to me, and then I obviously knew the existence of Night Mail because it's the most famous film we've used, I'd say, by some distance, and thought those two could combine quite nicely. So it always tends to come from a sort of a musical start point, really, rather than a kind of, you know, looking to get a specific message across, I suppose. But I mean, they're things that I'm interested in, and I think are interesting. So there's definitely stuff in there if people want to take it out, but just generally speaking, it has to work on a musical level first, I think.
What was the first album you ever purchased?
I can never remember that. I'm going to go with Nick Kershaw, The Riddle. I didn't purchase it, but it may as well have been because big fan.
And if you could collaborate with any artist, past or present, who would it be?
Oh man. That's too tough. That's too tough. There's so many. I think someone with a great voice, really. Somebody with a fantastic voice. I would have loved to have met Johnny Cash before he died. I'll say him. I don't know how on earth that would sound. I think it would be one of the weirdest records ever if it was us and him, but